What up, my awesome viewers? Rio Gion here, and with the new Nissan 400Z or Nissan Z or Nissan Proto Z, however which the name is going to be for 2022 is when the car comes out, and it's going to come out as a 2023 model. So should people of the fans of the Toyota Supra be worried, or should they switch? And honestly, I feel like yes and no. So yes, if they actually want like a true JDM car. As in, like, if you really want like a true Japanese car from the ground up, not like Japanese and Germany shaking hands making a car, then yes, I would say get the Nissan Z. But if you want something that's more of like a German feeling Japanese car, which for some people out there that buys the Supra, I kind of feel like that's where they're going at. Like, they like Japanese car, but they also want like a more German feeling Japanese car, if that even makes any sense. But it does, because when you talk to some of the actual owners and buyers of the Supra, like, they actually kind of like that. They like the fact that when they sit inside a car, it feels German. And to each their own. I mean, the Supra does sell. Does it sell well? I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked at the numbers, but it does sell, and especially the 4-cylinder one. That is the one that I'm really interested in. And with the 3-liter V6 twin turbo, I honestly think that particular engine trim, a lot of the sales are going to be taken away by the Nissan Z. I honestly think with the people that actually want to buy the car, they have around like $40,000 or so. I would say, yeah, because if you want a manual transmission with your car, that's pretty much it. You're going to buy the Z, like, regardless, because 3 liters, twin turbo, with manual transmission is something that the Toyota Supra does not have. And by the way, I'm trying to not look at my notes as much, but yeah, I'm gonna look at my notes from like time to time, just kind of getting through some of the talking points. And so besides the fact that it's a manual, and let's be honest, even though it's a manual, I don't think the sales numbers are going to be as high, but the demand is there, which, I mean, there's a reason why they make it a manual. And honestly, I think the 9-speed automatic is probably going to be like the volume leader. The 9-speed, maybe like the mid-trim or like the lower-end trim is probably going to be the volume leader rather than like the really top-end trim, where it's like way more. It's like $12,000 more. Oh no, that is the Supra. The Supra going from 4 to 6 is, yeah, it's like 12 grand. But if we're talking like apples and apples, orange and oranges comparison, with the Toyota Supra V6 and the Nissan Z, I honestly think the Nissan Z is probably going to get more sales. Because, number one, you can have it in a manual. Number two, it's actually a true Japanese car rather than a German-made Japanese car. And I honestly think that is somewhat of a big deal, because for those of you that are true JDM fans, I mean, you only want a car that's actually made from Japan. I mean, see, that's the thing about the GR86 or the GT86. Yeah, I think it's a GT86. Yeah. So the thing about that is that it's both Toyota and Subaru, which are both Japanese. So if you're like a true JDM fan, it doesn't really matter because they're both Japanese either way. But with the Toyota Supra, see, the thing that's really somewhat of a turn-off to some people is that it's a German-made Japanese car. Is that the components, the transmission, the engine is German, and the shell is Japanese. And of course, you know, there's some people that are going to defend it. They're going to say, oh, you know, Toyota watches the build or inspect the build or does something with the build. And true, that's great. But besides the point, if you want a true JDM car, you would go with the Nissan Z just because it's a true JDM car rather than the Toyota Supra. So that's one of the main things that I can really think of that kind of sways people towards the Nissan Z. And a second thing that, well, this is kind of my personal opinion, but the Nissan Z has an actual handbrake. Like, honestly, when looking at newer cars, it's so rare for a car to have a handbrake. Like, we're talking like cheapo cars don't even have handbrakes anymore. They have that electronic parking brake, which they say to save room, but I say to cause more electronical issue. But hey, to each their own. But yeah, the Nissan Z has an actual standard handbrake. And if I were in the market to buy a car again, honestly, that's probably going to be it. I'm probably gonna get like the lower end trim, but most likely because I'm like one of those buyers where I see a car comes out, it's fantastic. I wait 3 years down the line and then buy it when it's like half off. That's how I usually do things, but of course, when people that are like super excited about the car, they'll probably pre-order it. Like, man, especially like the C8, so many people just go ahead and like clamor all over that car. But that's another topic for another day. Going back to the Nissan Z, I honestly think this is a great car. Just looking at the specs alone, though. So in terms of driving impressions, honestly, I don't know. And to be honest, I may never know because I don't think anyone are brave enough to loan me their car to drive to review. But that's not the point. I'm probably gonna do like a dealership thing, kind of test it out and then give my own little 2 cents. But that's like down the line. But if we're talking just specs to specs, numbers to numbers, the fact that it has a manual, I think is probably easily the most important thing that enthusiasts would want and enthusiasts would get. But the mass market would probably get the automatic. I honestly think so. That's probably going to be the volume leader. And then between the Nissan Z and the Toyota Supra, honestly, it's probably going to boil down to looks. In terms of mass market, not in terms of like enthusiast people that wants, the spec king and kings and queens of specs and all that good jazz. But if we're talking about just actual mass market in terms of the two cars, I honestly think it's probably going to boil down to looks. Like, whichever one that they like the look more, they're probably going to get. Because they're kind of the same price and kind of the same performance. So, yeah, it's probably going to boil down to looks in terms of mass market. But I honestly believe the more enthusiast people will lean towards the Nissan Z just because it has the manual transmission, and hopefully the manuals live on and hopefully the handbrake lives on. Because I've seen cars that have a manual but has an electronic parking brake. One of the sad things is that the Civic Type R, like, that has a really good manual. Like, I enjoy driving that car with a manual, but I do not like the parking and doing the little window switch for the parking brake. I want a actual like analog handbrake to pull and feel that awesome tactile handbrake, and also hear that ratchet sound. That ratchet sound is so awesome. That will never get old for me, which is why I have a car that has a handbrake, because it never gets old. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are like the two main things I can think of from the top of my head. See if there's any good notes, anything else that I should really mention. That blue interior. That blue interior on the Nissan Z. If I were to get that car, hands down, that is going to be my favorite spec. It's the blue on blue. Ooh. That looks good. That looks really good to me. A lot of people think it's really tacky with that blue on blue, but man, I love that blue on blue. That blue on blue is so freaking awesome. If I were to get the Z, that's the only spec I would want it. I want that blue on blue. That blue on blue is so freaking awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much it. My own little 2 cents on it. And yeah, if you're new to the video, click subscribe, the like, the bell, thumbs up, comment. If you want a tech channel, I have a tech channel down there, everything tech related. And then also, if you want to support me directly, I have a locals down below to watch some cutthroat content. You guys stay awesome.
Yeah.